Welcome to the Emotional Aromatherapy webinar with Amanda Porter and special guest Laura Jacobs. We are excited that so many of you could join us to discover more about this amazing topic. Aromatherapy is a powerful tool in emotional healing, and we hope that you'll catch the vision of it and how it can benefit you and those you love by the end of this webinar, because this is really just the introduction to the topic. And there's so much to learn, and we're eager to get started on this first important step in understanding how it actually works. So speaking of introductions, let me start by introducing myself. So I am Amanda Porter. I am the co-founder of Enlighten Alternative Healing and the co-author of our best-selling book. It's the original reference manual on this topic called Emotions and Essential Oils. And it was first published in 2012. The people with me in the next picture are my partners. So there's Daniel McDonald and Sarah McCann, myself, and Chuck Call. And we officially founded Enlighten when Daniel McDonald brought me his original and pioneering ideas and research on the emotional healing aspect of essential oils. And our two other partners then lent their creativity and their talents to the company, and you know, the rest is history. And that was 6 years ago. And our mission has been and is to promote emotional healing, and especially the amazing benefits of essential oils that assist us, you know, in the process. And we have been so blessed to have Laura Jacobs' continued support and unwavering vision since inception. She has also known essential oils as emotional healers long before this aspect was really widely recognized. So with her help, we have been able to share the message of the oils and allow more and more people to feel the benefit of them in their lives. And we're grateful to have this opportunity to partner with her on our newest product in the Emotions and Essential Oils product line, which is the Emotional Aromatherapy Tear Pad that we'll be going over tonight. And she also designed our fantastic PowerPoint, so she is multi-talented. So Laura, can you please introduce yourself and tell everyone a bit more about your unique journey?
I would be honored to. Thank you so much, Amanda, for that awesome introduction to yourself and your team, and also for just the opportunity to have partnered with all of you. All right, well, I just want to say hello to everyone. It's so exciting to be here with all of you. This is really kind of a historic opportunity for Amanda and I and the Enlighten team to collaborate. You know, it's fun to share that clear back in August of 2010, I actually hired Daniel McDonald to work with me at my wellness center. And during that time, he was starting to write and research and put together this incredible compilation in regards to essential oils and their emotional personalities. And, you know, I'd been using essential oils by that time for nearly 15 years and I was just enthralled by what he was bringing forward and just encouraged him right from the get-go to please put this into a book. And so Amanda's right. I've been probably their biggest fan of their work, and my own experience has been profound. You know, whether it's personal health and wellness to family, friends, and close comrades, health and wellness to clientele and all the people I've been able to serve over decades of having a wellness center, to the doTerra team that I get to participate with. And, you know, I had an opportunity to go out into the world literally and to invite thousands of people to bring essential oils into their lives. And truly the most profound tool I had to accompany me, in addition to, you know, basic reference books on essential oils, was the work that they've done here with their book. And it's so endearing for people to connect with themselves to the oil in this personality way. And it's been a terrific way for me to learn essential oils and really understand the footprint and, again, that personality that each of them brings. So I'm just thrilled to be here with you, Amanda. I'm thrilled to have participated in this process. And so our intention tonight is to share with you a class that we've collaborated on, and we call it Emotions and Essential Oils and Take the Wheel. And we're going to have some fun with this take the wheel idea. And, you know, we're just looking here at this wonderful artistic way of explaining or expressing emotional life and what it looks like. It has its twists and turns and its ups and downs, and some days it feels a little steeper than others. And we're just super excited to present this idea to you of how we can, in fact, take the wheel of our emotional life with partnering with essential oil. So, for your ability to kind of see where this is all coming together, we have collaborated to make what we call a tear pad, or an opportunity to lay down in print a tool whereby we can teach these principles. And this is something that's available to the public to purchase. It comes in a pad of 50. We'll talk about that later. But just so you have some context about where we're coming from in teaching this, and our slides are designed to reflect this exact content. So for those of you who already have a copy of it in your possession, we invite you to follow along step by step as we go about walking through this little journey together and talking through the different points on this particular piece that we've authored together. And Amanda and I have had such a terrific time creating this simple way to represent what could be considered a very complex aspect of our existence, and super excited to connect with you here. So I'm going to turn it back to you, Amanda, and let you take it from here.
Great, thank you. So to start, we just want to get real. Do you ever feel like your emotions are running you? Do you want to react less to your life and maybe feel like you're responding more? Do you want more joy? Even though emotions are crucial and healthy, sometimes we don't love our emotional reactions. And like all of us, I have felt like my emotions are running me sometimes, and I'm just along for the ride. And when life comes at us fast and furious, it's easy to forget the tools that we have to help us. So let me give you a personal example of how this can play out. So I returned to the U.S. a few months ago to care for my mother as she undergoes cancer treatment. And if any of you have had the experience of living with someone going through chemo, you'll understand how difficult it is to watch. So the emotions of helplessness and fear they're ever present, and it's overwhelming. And in addition to kind of the intensity of that, the family is displaced, and somehow I still have to run my business and be a mother to my children, and lots of roles and lots of things and so on. But this is a recipe for stress for me. And when burdens keep piling on and I'm pushing myself to meet expectations, I fall right into my standard stress response, which manifests as joylessness. So suddenly, everything is duty and obligation. And after a while, there isn't even happiness in the roles that I usually find so fulfilling. When I'm entrenched in this cycle, everything sort of turns gray. And I put my head down and I plow through life, and it's just not a cheerful picture, but it's very, very real. So let me stop here and validate how easy it is to get distracted by our emotions, especially when we're in intense situations, and forget, at least temporarily, that we can experience different emotional responses than we're used to. We don't have to live the same way we always have. And I feel so blessed to have these wonderful tools at my disposal to turn to for assistance when life seems like it's getting unmanageable. So we're going to explain how the emotional response cycle works now, so we can understand how to first get unstuck, and then to help ourselves heal, and then eventually create the lasting change that we're hoping for. Emotions, like we talked about, they're normal, they're healthy responses to life. Their primary function is to move us to action and to help us learn. Sometimes we feel like we're being afflicted, but truly they are meant to be gifts to us to help us learn and to create action in our life. And they're really, as we said, they're crucial to our ability to survive and make even the most basic decisions. And additionally, their impact on our mind-body connection is extraordinary. It's complex, it's intricate, it's amazing. And Laura, I was hoping you could take the opportunity now to explain the process that happens in our emotional response cycle?
I would love to. And I just love starting with this premise that, emotions are normal and just to really examine what that looks like. So here we have, we talk about take the wheel. This truly is the wheel that we're referring to. And it's the wheel that represents our response cycle. And we all have this, we're all engaging in the process of responding to life because life happens. And so there's all kinds of things that we experience, whether it's, a sense, a sensation, we see something, we smell something, we hear something, we feel something, or we think something. So any of those are considered experiences, right? And so necessarily we have to actually interpret that experience and decide what we think is happening because we are built for safety first. So that information is often, and we'll go to one aspect of how we function in our brain. Our amygdala, which we call our watchtower, is involved in interpreting what just happened, and am I safe because it happened? So if I smell something burning, or I smell something beautiful, what's happening here? And based on that interpretation, we will have an emotional response. If it's a smell that doesn't smell good to us, and we're afraid, we feel fear, then we might suddenly panic and think, oh my gosh, I better run and take something off the stove. And so that fear will generate, again, it moves us to action. Whereas if it's a pleasurable aroma, it will invite a pleasurable thought. Maybe we experience joy or euphoria, whatever the case is. And as a result of that feeling or that emotion that, again, was generated by our thought and then our interpretation or experience in our interpretation, we will then have a subsequent chemical response. So if something's burning on the stove, we panic, we have fear, we generate now something like adrenaline, for example, as a chemical response that will actually fuel our ability to take the action. So this is such an important partnership between our emotions. That feeling is what triggers that cascade of circumstances within the body that allow us to actually respond appropriately. And, so our sympathetic nervous system is going to kick in, our adrenaline's kicking in, and now we're ready to have the physical response of running to the kitchen or whatever the case is. Now, upon that experience, well, we learned something. And I think one of my favorite ways to teach this is if you were a caveman child and you saw a saber-toothed tiger for the first time, you might think to yourself, oh, it's so cute and it's fuzzy and I want to pet it. And then, maybe there's an adverse circumstances. So your thought was pleasurable. You reach out to have a pleasurable experience only to have a perhaps opposite effect and something, more tragic happened. And so you've learned from that experience. And as a result of that, the next time life happens, the next time you smell the smell, the next time you see the saber-toothed tiger, you now have experience and memory that you've laid down, which now, of course, affects your interpretation the next time that stimulus or experience comes along. And that, in fact, is the response cycle. And as a result of that, we have the opportunity to really understand how we work scientifically. And I just love this. So as we move further down into the materials we've created here, our section next to the wheel to the left, we've titled Emotional Cruise Control. And this is just such an incredible, simple way to understand what happens inside of us because, when we don't understand what happens, how are we supposed to get in the driver's seat of our responses? So let's talk about this. So based on our individual perception and interpretation, as we just talked about, of these life experiences, each of us then builds our own unique superhighways, or what can be called neural networks, of programmed responses, right? We've now programmed how we're going to respond to the saber-toothed tiger because we've learned from our experience and our brain intentionally established a memorized route now that we've, what fires together, wires together. We've now created a network. So the next time we have that experience, we can retrace that route. So when a recognizable circumstance occurs, comes back again, it's like we switched onto our cruise control. Our brain takes the wheel, utilizing what could be called, what I like to call an emotional positioning system, or in other words, a habitual pre-programmed pathway of emotional responses. So let's apply that to real life. This is a fun way to look at it. As a parent of children, let's say teenagers, we do things like create curfews and we expect our kids to be home on time. Now, let's say, it's kind of the first time you've had this experience or you're young at it, you're new at it. you aren't seasoned yet. It's your oldest child, not your youngest. And I think any of you will chuckle. I've got a 26-year-old son all the way down to a 16-year-old daughter, 5 kids. And I would tell you that my responses have definitely, shall we say, refined over time. So let's say you're early on in your or this can go either way. Like you could have had some really challenging experiences with some of the older kids, which really affects your response cycle. So we can go that route. Let's say one of your older children has disrespected curfew and as a result of that was involved in activities that were, let's say, less than healthy. And so now when the younger child comes home and is late for curfew, we've laid down some tracks of belief about what children are doing if they're late. And so when that child comes in the door, we might just barrel in and say, where have you been? What have you been doing? And not extending trust and love, but first just really assuming, right, that they were up to no good. And so now what's going to happen to the child? Their experience is, whoa, what happened here? My parent doesn't trust me. So now they're laying down tracks. And this is that pattern. We can pass it on from generation to generation. And we might even be following the programming from our parent. Like, my dad was really hard on me with my curfew. Therefore, that's the track I've laid down. I'm going to turn around and be hard on my child despite no evidence of a need to be that. So rather than when that child comes home and asking some simple questions, hey, you're late, everything all right, where you been, versus just charging in and saying you're late, you're awful, where have you been? This is a big deal. And how many times then, and really what's beautiful and what's difficult is we love that child, right? We want them to be safe. We want them free from harm or self-inflicted pain. And so we're charging in a form of protection, but it's not necessarily experienced as the love that we feel. And so this is why it's so important we can step back from these responses that we've laid down, because again, we can move into that cruise control mode and find ourselves, not really enjoying the experience or the response that we've issued, which is why Amanda started out with the question, are you reacting or are you responding? So let's return to your story, Amanda, and see how this kind of works with what you've been experienced with your mom, for example. So we'd love to hear, about how your own response routes have been happening for you.
Yeah. So, as Laura explained, repeated life experiences have created these well-traveled superhighways, and our mind knows exactly what to do once it recognizes a situation. And life is real, and sometimes we're going to struggle, and sometimes we will get caught in patterns that we don't want to continue. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with us. But returning to my previous example, we'll point out how this works a little bit in the cycle. So my amygdala, the decision maker, the watchtower, as Laura said, has deemed my recent experiences as stressful. And so then it has initiated emotions to match, like feeling overwhelmed or worried. And then the chemical response follows, in anticipation of helping with my physical response. And in this case, probably the chemical response is maybe primarily adrenaline and cortisol. And then the chemical, but then the beliefs are formed about how I need to respond to life. And then the whole process or cycle has created a pattern that's ready to go next time my mind recognizes something similar. So it's totally predictable. And when this happens, when we have these responses, then this vicious cycle happens, and the go-to emotions are happening, and we are used to that, and that's why it's predictable. And we can just, I love this picture. Hello, backseat driver. That's why it feels like your emotions are running you, because they are. In this cycle, they are. So there's just a cycle happening. It's in the subconscious, and it's totally running us. So how do we break these chemical habits? How do we change lanes once the process has begun and get our wheels out of the ruts in the road? And especially if this chemical process is happening completely outside of our consciousness, what can we do? Once it's begun, what can we do? What do you say, Laura?
I have good news. I have good news. The good news is there is, in fact, roadside assistance. And let's just take in here what your possibilities are. And our roadside assistance is an opportunity for us to really figure out how can we get back in the driver's seat of our emotions. And we can do that with emotional aromatherapy. And that is, of course, what's gathered us together today to talk about it, because this is, in fact, a superb and proven method for influencing chemical and emotional responses. Very simply, because aromas have a direct route to our amygdala, the very watchtower that we spoke of. And you know that your sense of smell is the only sense to have direct access to your brain, unfiltered. And so not only does the aroma reach your amygdala through the olfaction process, it also reaches your limbic brain, to which the amygdala belongs, where all of your emotions and these memories we've talked about are stored. And the messages that come through the aromas cannot be blocked by your subconscious mind. So therefore, by introducing an essential oil aroma as a positive new stimulus, in other words, it's a new idea. If we want to interrupt our response cycle, because it's something that's become a habit, and it's hard to change, right? These are routes and things that are hard for us to alter. If we want to change that, we literally have to introduce new information. Now, everybody knows, right? There's all kinds of different ways to introduce the information. It can be a conversation, it can be therapy, it can be a book, it can be a movie, it can be repeated exposure, and oftentimes needs to be, right? Repeated exposure to new information, because in order to change the wiring, we've got to introduce new pathways of thought. And so I am thrilled to introduce the concept of using essential oils as a way to literally flood the body with new information. And in essence, in simplicity, what we can experience then is an opportunity to literally interrupt old mental and emotional patterns of response and literally create new ones, which again looks like laying down new highways of thought. Additionally, we can also stimulate certain regions of the brain because, again, smell has such incredible access. Therefore, stimulating areas that control our endocrine experiences, our immune experiences, of course, our limbic experiences, and more. And finally, we can then affect directly and profoundly the deepest levels of our body, our emotions, and our psyche. And this just thrills me to no end. And in essence, really, it allows us to get in the driver's seat of our life, to take the wheel with the simple use of emotional aromatherapy. And this just, again, excites me to one, live this truth, and two, to invite others to have the same experiences. And so, Amanda, give us an opportunity to see where can we take this? What can this look like in the real world, in our real lives?
Great. Well, first of all, awareness is the first step towards change. And so coming through this process and gaining this education and understanding how this works is huge. It's monumental. It's so important because the education and the knowledge and the awareness is what we need in order to take control, take the wheel, and to get ahead of these things going forward. So by first acknowledging your emotional superhighways and then identifying what essential oils best address the associated emotions, you can redirect your emotional traffic. And isn't that great news? I mean, it's so empowering. So let's jump into this. It's time to flip over your tear pad to page 2 if you have that with you. Get your pencils and pens out because we're moving from the education portion, as Laura mentioned, into the action. And we're going to guide you now through a 4-step process that will help you redirect your emotional traffic right now. So Laura, let's get them started.
Wonderful. I just love this. This is so simple and yet so empowering and liberating for people. The first step in the 4-step process is to simply identify the emotional habits you find yourself in now. Consider what emotional reactions have become your habits, those negative go-to responses that you want to positively redirect, like redirecting your traffic. And then upon identifying those feelings, those emotions, look then to the wheel here, located both on the slide and on the handout, and find the emotion or the emotions that best match what you've identified. And then take the time to jot down on the chart below that negative go-to emotion. So here the example is, what if somebody had selected the emotion of gloomy? Then they would write that down. And a lot of times people have more than one, so there's space here. to jot down a few, and we would invite you to do so. And then moving forward in step 2, once that's happened and you've been able to identify that emotion, the next step would be to identify further out on the wheel what essential oil blend would correlate to that emotion. Because again, our goal here is the oils are our roadside assistants. And so, but we want to get specific. We want to identify what particular blends would be useful for the particular emotional state you're experiencing. So if you look here on the wheel where gloomy is located, it's actually located between two different blends, cheer and motivate. So here by example, you would look to the wheel, find out what blend, identify, jot down its name, so cheer, and then maybe motivate on the next line. And then also identify the descriptive name. That's going to be important for the next step. And jot down both of those, cheer, and then what lies beneath it is uplifting blend. If you were to write down motivate, in the second column, you would write down encouraging blend thereafter. Okay, so now this is where it gets really fun and exciting. Amanda, tell us what our next step is.
Yeah. Yeah, so for step 3, I'm going to invite you to get out your copy of Emotions and Essential Oils if you haven't done so already, and if you have one. And let me read the directions to this step, and we'll go into it a little bit more in detail. So get to know each blend by opening Emotions and Essential Oils and read the description of those you've selected. Look them up by their descriptive name, as Laura mentioned, and then smell to determine aroma preference, and add notes as desired to remember the personalized details that you related to. So now I want to refer back to my example. So I would have resonated most with those words on the wheel, distressed and somber. So I would have also identified cheer or uplifting blend as the blend for me in this scenario. So the imperative step here is to actually read the blend description in our book and then record the personal notes on what resonates with you. So let me illustrate by actually reading the uplifting blend description from Emotions and Essential Oils. This blend of citrus and spices was formulated to assist individuals who are in need of cheerfulness. It is especially helpful for individuals who feel heavy-hearted or who have been weighed down by many challenges in life. Encountering repeated trials over an extended period of time can have crippling effects and may even create an expectation of permanent suffering with no hope of relief. Uplifting blend encourages individuals who are overcome by feelings of hopelessness and helplessness. It helps restore one's hope when they have been stretched beyond the limits of their endurance. This blend inspires faith that life will work out for the best despite difficulties and setbacks. Uplifting blend reminds individuals that there is so much more to life than the hardship they are experiencing, and to determinedly hold on until they regain the hope and joy they feel they've lost. So these passages, as I read that, stood out to me, specifically those who have been weighed down by many challenges in life, helplessness, that it restores one's hope, that they have been stretched beyond the limits of their endurance, and lastly, to hold on. So I would jot those down because those phrases spoke truth to me and to my circumstances. So now, at this point in the webinar, you should take a moment to read over your selected blend and to record some notes about it.
All right, so we would invite you, if you're listening to the webinar, once it's recorded and you're having this experience, perhaps you've sat down yourself to listen and to learn, or you've sat down with a group of individuals, feel free to hit the pause button and just enjoy the opportunity to have that experience. Get the wheel out, find your negative go-to emotions, identify your blends, and then read up on them. And, per my example with the wheel, if the emotional selection had been gloomy and you had jotted down cheer and motivate, the question then becomes often for people is, which one would I use? And truly, either or both could be selected. However, it's this individualizing of what's been selected that's so powerful. So by reading both the uplifting blend page in the book and the encouraging blend, page in the book and listening to the descriptions of both, you're really going to be able to identify which one's really a fit for me, or are they both a fit for me? Are they something I want to be using simultaneously, or do I feel like, gosh, I want to start here and then I want to move into this progression? And so, really personalizing and jotting down a few notes like that is super helpful. In addition to reading the description as a form of selection, we would also encourage that in this experience, it's why it's so fun to gather with people, because perhaps, you as a listener are experiencing this for the first time, and maybe you don't yet have these oils in your possession. So if you can be in a situation where someone does, we would highly encourage you to smell the blend, because smelling is a big part of the brain's ability to participate in the self-selection of what serves you. And so really enjoy the opportunity to use smelling along with reading as a way to select what feels right for you. And again, it could be a singular choice, it could be multiple choices. And once that selection is made, necessarily, in order to have that positive experience, it's time to use the blend. Perhaps you've been in a classroom experience and you've already had an exposure to essential oil application methods, perhaps not. So let me briefly introduce to you that primarily for an emotional impact, you would absolutely want to capitalize on the fact that, again, this roadside assistance comes through the aromatic delivery of that smell to your brain by using that olfaction process of simply inhaling an aroma, which then crosses over your olfactory bulb straight into your territory of your limbic brain and your amygdala to bring a new message to you. So think about it. If you chose the blend of cheer, and you are now flooding your brain with the information of what cheer has to offer, and it contains a blend of citrus and spice oils, you are now experiencing those aromas. And for any of you who have ever smelled something as simple as wild orange, for example, or other citrus oils, you can't help but feel happier just by smelling them. Because again, you have flooded your brain with chemical information that literally invites you to feel calmer, to feel more uplifted, to feel soothed because of the pure chemicals that your body is experiencing. It's beautiful. So aromatic is super powerful. So obviously the use of a diffuser would be highly recommended, and such a wonderful way to put the practice of emotional aromatherapy into your everyday life. And then additionally, using the oils topically, because you become your own human diffuser by applying an aroma like cheer, for example, to places like your forehead, your wrists, shoulders, bottoms of your feet, over your heart. You're now wearing it around, and not only will it enter your bloodstream and you'll get to experience the power of those pure chemical constituents, but you're also still now with your body heat creating your own human diffusing experience. So these are two super powerful methods, and really such a wonderful way to experience the invitation we have here, which is to truly take the wheel of your emotional responses. So again, they're not taking over, they're not your backseat driver, they're not your cruise control, but you're literally making the decision to take the wheel and to affect your brain and your response cycle and to literally create new habits. So we have provided for you on the handout, you can see the small picture of it to the left, a section where you're able to really see what is to be expected. So we've really given to you a very brief description of 6 words that really capture the personality of this blend, to invite you to really mentally connect, cognitively connect with the description of what this new emotional response habit would be. So again, if the selection was cheer, it's promoting, because of its ability to do so, because of the chemical information it brings to the body, it literally promotes the ability to be optimistic, cheerful, happy, lighthearted, resilient, and enthusiastic, which is a fabulous set of habits. So just to give you an ability to take a closer look at that, here you have a view of that here up close and personal. And, I just have to give just some praise here to the process that's been developed. This is so exciting to me. I've been out all over the country sharing this concept of using emotional blends for emotional wellness, and the stories I'm hearing are so endearing. I'd like to share just a couple of them. One, I had a group of people over for dinner, some of my doTerra friends, and one woman, she's a mother in her mid-30s. They had had a loss in their family of somebody very dear to them, and it had been about 12 weeks prior. to when she was telling the story. And the loss was something she was not recovering from, this person's passing. And so she said about 12 weeks into the experience, it kind of dawned on her, the light bulb went off. Wow, I actually have tools and I'm not putting them to work. So very obviously, she chose the blend of console, which promotes feelings of comforted, hopeful, sustained, whole, reconciled, and revived in an attempt to help her, overcome the sad feelings that she was feeling due to this loss. And she said the experience of using that oil was so rapid. She could not believe the impact that she felt. And this is not a person who's new to oils. She's had experience, and yet she was just totally taken by the extraordinary opportunity. And most importantly, it wasn't a temporary experience. She said she was permanently altered and that she no longer found herself where she'd been for months. Another gal I was able to interact with shared an experience of having just some really irritating shoulder tension, and it had become quite bothersome. He had searched for methods on a physical level to eliminate that irritation, and it had just escalated to a point where, she was getting answers like having to have it, physically operated on, and it wasn't sitting with her right to just kind of approach it that way. So she took a step back and she actually went through a process of examining herself emotionally instead. She went for her feelings instead of her physicality. And what came to her is that she had a situation in her life that was a very resentful, very bitter relationship that had become pretty treacherous for her. And so she started applying the Forgive blend to this shoulder. And within a short period of time, she no longer had that irritating shoulder tension. It was completely removed. And I just love that story. And I could go on and share with you different things, but Amanda, I'll give you an opportunity here to weigh in
You
on
know,
what we have.
yeah, I'm really glad you shared those stories because I also have to mention that creating and using this TerraPad really helped me identify the stress pattern so clearly, that I was repeating the stress pattern in my life. And I tend to focus on like deep issues in my emotional healing, but developing this simple process helped me get in touch with a pattern that needed some attention. And it was super, super timely for me. And I love, like Laura said, I love how much the essential oils could actually help us because if we just choose them, they will help us emotionally with what we need. And when we were choosing the words for this particular section, I knew that I wanted to feel, like Cheer says, optimistic and lighthearted and resilient. And I wanted to feel that right now. And so I can't say enough good things about this because I think that the power, the layers, and the depth that are offered by some of these amazing blends, um, they're limitless. There's so much that can be explored and done here.
Amanda, I just want to thank you for your vulnerability and your willingness to share a really tender story of what's happening in your life. And, Amanda and I have been hanging out a lot lately because we've been creating together and experience together. And, I had a very profound experience with you and your story in the book that I think is worth sharing. We were talking together a couple months ago, and Amanda had a dream to take her family to Europe and to live there for a time. And she did it. She accomplished it. And she's got little kids, and you can imagine with foreign travel, it's pretty crazy. And then they had to cut that short because of what happened with her mom. And I remember when we were talking that on the wheel, the emotion that you had selected then was discontented, and it actually related to the blend of passion. And so we opened your book, we looked up the inspiring blend and read it, and it was like it was so fitting about how we can become so dutiful. You had been so great to share how dutiful you had become about, packing bags and diapers and kids and schlepping luggage and all the things that are required with travel, that here you were living your dream, and then it had become tedious and dutiful, and it had kind of snatched your joy. And I loved that discontent
Mm.
was your choice of words without, we just looked at the wheel, you just chose an emotion. We saw that it matched up with passion. We opened the book, we read the description, and it was so fitting for you. And so I just
Hmm.
thank you for sharing your story so we can learn from it. Super powerful.
Well, I love it. I think the oils are powerful. I think that they're amazing, and so and they speak to our emotions in a way that are so unique and so powerful that I think it's an important message to share.
So, on that note, just in conclusion, with the message we have on the pad, it's really an invitation. Again, if we're going to take the wheel and establish new emotional habits, this is something we deserve to do every day of our lives. Like, really, you can wait until a crisis happens and then try to take the wheel. I mean, again, imagine being a backseat driver for yourself because your emotions are in the front seat or whatever, however you want to look at that, and then trying to reach up and grab the wheel in a moment of crises. And how much better would it be if each day we were choosing to put a deposit in our bank account so that when something comes up, whether it's news like Amanda's news of, hey, your dream trip to Europe is going to get cut short. And not only is it going to get cut short, but it's going to get cut short because of your mom's health. And your mom's health is cancer. Like, that's a big deal. And so if Amanda waits and waits and waits and waits until the news comes and hasn't made emotional deposits, then her need is going to be different, right, as far as interaction. Whereas, have you ever met somebody who just always seems to keep their cool and seems to manage stress really well? Again, they're not so reactive; they're positively responsive, and it's really because they have a bank account that they've established. And so, I want to encourage each of us to put in those daily deposits and to think ahead. You know, for example, what if you got a phone call tomorrow that you're going to be speaking in front of 200 or 2,000 people? How would you feel? But you had a month to prepare for it. Do you want to wait until the day you're going to go on stage and then you're going to put peace on to quiet your mind and to still your heart and maybe some control to calm yourself down so you can get on stage and keep your thoughts together? Or would you like to plan ahead and start using peace? Because, remember, the thought is a stimulus, right? You don't even have to be on stage yet. You just have to think about it. And your amygdala is going to interpret that as, well, that's terrifying. So why wait and then let that run you? That's the backseat driver running you. That's your emotions taking over. Why wouldn't you instead want to get in the driver's seat immediately and start changing your thinking by flooding your mind and your body with the information that peace blend brings, a reassuring blend, or maybe the motivate blend that's encouraging you, and literally make tons of deposits long before it's the day you get on stage. And of course, you're going to use your oils that day as well. But that's what we're talking about, is making this a daily habit and getting in the habit of identifying, what emotion do I want to feel less of? What do I want to feel more of? The blend is your opportunity to decide, what do I want to feel more of? And that's why both names on the blend is so powerful. It's cheer and it's uplifting. It's motivate and it's encouraging. It's peace and it's reassuring. And so allowing you to, again, identify, I want to feel less of this, I want to feel more of this, and I can literally take the driver's seat and make this happen. And when you read from the book in that experience and you go from the 6 awesome words that Amanda and I really enjoyed deciding on to really capture the personality of those blends, and you can go into reading paragraphs like she demonstrated with the cheer blend, you can become so empowered and so in charge. Awareness, they say, oftentimes is 70% of the battle. And so when you can increase your awareness, like just for her to identify in so many words the experience that she's having with her mom, I love that she chose things like hopeless and helpless, because that's, of course, how we feel when a loved one is suffering and we don't have the capacity to stop the disease that's ravaging in their body, or we don't have the ability to stop that may threaten their life, or we don't have the ability to stop the effects of the methods that they chose. But we do have the ability, right, to control our responses and to show up in love and in trust and in faith. And we want to nurture and feed that. And then, of course, using the blend aromatically as our first and foremost technique by running diffusers in key points in our day, when we're getting up in the morning, when we're going to bed at night, during our daily experiences, wearing the oils topically and putting them on key locations. If you feel your emotion in a certain part of your body, put the oil there and use some of the major delivery portals. And I just want to finish this portion of our presentation, then we've got some final thoughts for you. It's just an invitation that when I first read this really touched my heart. And it really was such an invitation. And it's simply this: we are always responsible for how we act, no matter how we feel. So I think we all desire to be empowered in our acting. and by being empowered in our feelings. So, Amanda, tell us a little bit about how we can
Mhm.
clear our experience.
Well, as Laura said, knowledge really is power. And it's important for us to realize that we can expand our emotional IQ. And Enlighten has developed these emotional aromatherapy products in this product line, and the product line includes some key resources to help you on your journey, to help you make these good habits, to help you incorporate this into your life on a regular basis. And one of the key resources, or what the key resource in the product line, is the book Emotions and Essential Oils, because this is the foundation to your emotional aromatherapy practice. So you know how to apply the oils for emotional aromatherapy. So this is a key resource for healing. And in the book, every oil, singles and blends, have a description of their emotional properties. And just a couple of quick references for this new 5th edition, there's also a new appendix called Decoding Emotions that can help when you're not quite sure how you feel or how to identify what you're experiencing. So it's really great insight there and kind of can help you get from point A to point B if that's where you're hung up. And then, and also a quick note that we did work with doTerra on the 5th edition to make sure that it's compliant with the FDA guidelines. And so this is just a must-have book for your emotional aromatherapy system. Also, the Emotions and Essential Oil Wheel is another great resource. This is a quick reference companion tool to the book, and it contains the core positive property of every oil on one side, so what you want more of, and also the negative, or better said, the emotional challenges on the reverse side, so what you want less of. And you can do the same exercise that we did, that we just went through with this wheel as well, but we're starting more simple and solidifying the concept. And then also this TerraPad that we've just gone through, the Take the Wheel TerraPad, is our new tool, and as we've discovered, it will take you all the way through the process of identifying your negative go-to emotions and choosing the essential oil that will help you create new habits, and also validating the science behind why we are the way that we are and what we can do about it. So, and we just want to mention our website is there, enlightenhealing.com, and there's additional free information and helpful resources there on emotional healing and emotional aromatherapy. So check it out to get some tools and resources.
All right. Wonderful.
And I love this quote.
Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead, Laura. I was going to say the quote on here, change your thoughts and you change your world. And I think that that's really powerful. So go ahead, Laura.
I love that as well. Thank you, Amanda, so much. And again, thank you to all of you for creating such incredible tools. And, our invitation to you is first, be the change you wish to see in the world. Live a more enlightened life. Expand your emotional IQ. Make these things a habit. And then truly pay it forward. There are other people in your surroundings that are suffering from their own emotional reactions, would love to improve their emotional response capacity. And we invite you to share. Have a gathering in your home. Invite the person who invited you to this webinar to come to your home to do a gathering with you and to come together and explore these possibilities. I have had so much joy in my life, again, as I have sat in the audience of thousands of people, as we have first learned a little bit about what's an essential oil and how does it benefit my life and all those kinds of things, and how do I use them, and then going deeper into the emotional relationship with the oils. And I have seen grown men and women just melt in my presence, where we go from being strangers to friends because we're bonding over emotional stories. I have seen people go from perhaps guarded to vulnerable in a matter of seconds just upon reading a page in the book and realizing what a gift it would be to have that kind of support in their life. And so we invite you to join the movement that we're about. We're about a movement of creating more sustainable emotional wellness on the planet. And we'd love to have you be a part of that. Again, first and foremost, by living it. And second of all, if it feels right to you, to share it. And so we hope you've enjoyed this whole concept of take the wheel. So again, take the wheel of your response cycle by taking the wheel and looking at simple emotions and finding blends that can help you resolve that. Take the wheel by bringing those blends into your home, into your life, into your resources. I keep a little kit with me at all times with just my emotional oils, and I keep them on my purse or my luggage wherever I go, and then pull them out at night and just enjoy having them by my bedside. And they're part of my nighttime routine. They're part of my morning routine. I wear them as my perfumes during the day, and it's just so wonderful. So we want to invite you to, well, first of all, thank you so much for joining us today for this opportunity to learn more about emotional aromatherapy and how you can, in fact, take the wheel of your emotions through emotional aromatherapy. Again, I want to close by saying thank you for being here with us. And thank you, Amanda, for allowing me to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Laura, for all of your great insight and for all of your great experience with this movement. You've spent years doing it. You have a lot of great wisdom and experience, and I think we just all feel blessed by your insight and that you offer to this. So, and thank you to all of you who attended. It's been great to share this with you.